And if we could welcome Meghan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you all for coming. I know that, well, the reason we're here today is because you're probably stressed, and taking time out of your day to come to something like this is hard, so thank you for coming. Hopefully what you'll get out of this presentation is ways to balance your schedule and your lives a little bit more to hopefully reduce the amount of stress that you're experiencing. So like Julie said, I'm the coordinator in the Center for Health and Wellbeing. We're located in room 0121 of the Epley Recreation Center. So has anyone been to Epley before or know where it is? Okay, good. That's a good start. So when you're in there, you just go down one level from the main entrance. You see the smoothie bar and the pro shop. You go right down that hallway. We're in the first glass doors on the left. I'll tell you a little bit about the center first, and I brought these cards for everyone. On the front, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the front is all of our contact information and our semester hours. So we're actually open 9 to 7 Monday through Thursday. I know it's really hard for sometimes for students or faculty or staff, which we also serve, to get in there between 9 and 5 because you're usually working, so we have extended hours, and 9 to 5 on Friday. On the flip side of that little card is all of the programs and services that we offer, and everything on this card is free for students, faculty, and staff. Pretty much everything in there is free. The ones that have a little star next to it require an appointment, so all you have to do is call or email to make an appointment, but the rest of them you can just walk in. Okay. So I hope that this will be kind of an interactive presentation or workshop, so feel free to provide some input, give me your thoughts and feelings, ask questions anytime, and I'll have a couple activities. And at one point I'm going to need some volunteers to come up here, so hopefully we'll have some fun today. So what we're going to talk about today is, first we're going to talk about what is wellness. Then we're going to talk about University of Maryland students, how they're doing with wellness, and especially on these 3 topic areas: stress, sleep, and time management. And then finally, I'm going to go over some campus resources that you can use to help improve your wellness or reduce stress or anything like that. So first, this is what we call the wellness wheel. Contrary to popular belief, wellness is more than just exercising and eating right. While that does fall into the physical dimension of wellness, there are 5 other dimensions of wellness that I'm going to talk about and go over briefly. First, though, the definition of wellness is that it's an active process of becoming aware of and making choices towards a more successful existence. It's really hard to ever achieve wellness or arrive at a point where there's no room for improvement. There's pretty much always room for improvement. So the wellness model that we use has 6 dimensions, like I said: physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, social, and occupational. So first, physical wellness, like I mentioned before, exercising and eating right, basically. But we also want to use alcohol responsibly and discourage the use of tobacco and other drugs. Social wellness encourages good, strong relationships with other people. It's having a feeling of connectedness with your community and family, and participating in activities that support one another. Emotional wellness emphasizes an awareness and acceptance of one's feelings, of your own feelings. It also includes how one feels about themselves, the ability to control one's feelings, and to express one's feelings. Intellectual wellness, something that grad students probably get an overload of. It encourages one to participate in mentally stimulating and creative activities. Improving intellectual wellness can happen in and out of the classroom. It's the ability to think clearly, reason objectively, and make responsible decisions. So really just a commitment, not just to your 2 years or 4 years in your grad program, but a commitment to lifelong learning. Spiritual wellness is really the hub of the wellness wheel. It's more than just prayer or believing in a higher being, and it's more than religion. It involves seeking and having meaning and purpose in life, as well as participating in activities that are consistent with your beliefs and values. And then finally, occupational, something that we're probably worried about for after grad school, emphasizes having personal satisfaction and enrichment in one's life through work. It includes choosing an occupation that you truly enjoy, is consistent with your personal values, interests, and beliefs, and is rewarding. But this can also include things like volunteer activities as well. So right now we're going to do a little activity. If you could just take one and pass it, I'll give you guys two. There you go. Okay. So this is the wellness wheel with all of the dimensions that I just went over. Everybody needs a pen or a writing utensil of some sort. You can keep these if you want to take one and pass it around. Okay, and actually I need one so I can demonstrate. Thanks. Okay, so what you're going to do, given those definitions that I just went over of all these different dimensions, you're going to rank yourself on how you're doing in that dimension or how you think you're doing. So what you're going to do to rank yourself is color in the little pie wedge. So if you think you're doing 100% like the best you could possibly do in one dimension, you'll color the entire pie wedge. But if you think you're doing like 50%, then what you'll do is you'll color like, and this is hard to demonstrate, you'll color half the pie wedge like that. Does everyone understand? So go ahead and do that for all 6 dimensions. I wish I brought crayons or something. Make it a little more fun. All right, sounds like I can hear from the pens on the table. Sounds like most people are done. Does anyone feel comfortable sharing their wheel with the rest of the group? Sure. Okay, so why don't you tell us about your wheel? Can you hold it up? Great. Okay. So it looks like you're doing pretty well in emotional, and middle and social and physical, really well in intellectual, and about 50% in occupational and spiritual. Okay. So the point of this exercise, as you can see, and thank you for sharing, as you can see, it's a wheel. But if you have pies that are much different, your wheel isn't going to roll smoothly. So what we strive for is balance in life. You want to try to be putting in an effort in all of these dimensions and balancing the amount of effort so that your wheel can roll smoothly. Okay, good. Okay, and for those of you who ranked yourself kind of low on one of those dimensions, hopefully you'll get some tips out of today's presentation to be able to improve there. All right, so now I want to talk about University of Maryland students. We just finished up doing the National College Health Assessment, so we finished in February, so this is very, very recent data. This is data that's from University of Maryland students. So 93.2% of students at University of Maryland, this includes undergraduate and graduate students, say they're in good, very good, or excellent health. That's great. That's fabulous. How many people in here would say that you're in good health? Very good health? Or excellent health? Okay, so we can see that there's like this disconnect here because 93% of students are saying, yeah, I'm in either good, very good, or excellent health. But then when we break it down, you see maybe not so much. So in terms of physical activity, I just picked out a couple things here and there that I thought were really interesting and really pertinent to this discussion. So about 30.4% of students describe their weight as slightly or very overweight. And 48.8% of students are currently trying to lose weight. So the American College of Sports Medicine recommends 150 minutes of moderate intensity cardio activity a week, so that would be 5 days a week for 30 minutes. But only about 22% of students are actually meeting that recommendation, and that's the minimum recommendation. So that's the recommendation for maintaining weight and getting benefit, like health benefits from cardio activity. A majority of students are only doing about 1 day for 30 minutes, 1 day a week of moderate intensity cardio activity. ACSM also recommends 2 to 3 days of strength training, and only about 33% of students are meeting that, and the majority do 0 days of strength training. Strength training, especially for women, is incredibly important, but most of the students aren't doing any. Nutrition. So students reported usually eating the following number of servings of fruits and vegetables per day. So this is fruits and vegetables combined. The majority are eating only 1 to 2 servings of fruits and vegetables combined. And this is kind of off because the survey is done in servings, but now we don't go by servings anymore. Like, we don't use the food guide pyramid anymore. We use this My Plate, Choose My Plate. But this is a good indicator of kind of how many servings you should be having every day, because every meal should be balanced like this. So this is saying you should try to have fruits and vegetables at almost every meal, or balance it out throughout the day. I know sometimes it can be hard to have like vegetables for breakfast. Sometimes people don't like that or whatever, but you would balance it out throughout the day by having maybe some more vegetables with your dinner. But this is pretty much what your plate should look like at every meal. And our students are doing not so good of a job with that. All right, so stress and anxiety, what we're all here for. These numbers are pretty disturbing. So 85.6% of students, and this is all at some point within the last 12 months, 85.6% of students felt overwhelmed by all they had to do. 49.5% felt overwhelming anxiety. That's half of the students here. And 81.1% felt exhausted and not from physical activity. Can anyone here relate to any of those 3 things? Probably. And 10% were diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, but almost 2% aren't being treated for that disorder. So also students rated their overall level of stress that they experienced in the last 12 months, and 42.7, so almost half of students, said they experienced more than average stress, and 8.4% of students said they experienced tremendous stress. So that's still a large percentage of students that are experiencing either more than average or a lot of stress. Sleep. This is also kind of a disturbing one as well. So one of the questions asked, on how many of the past 7 days did you get enough sleep so that you felt rested when you woke up in the morning? And the majority of students, 65.6%, are saying only between 1 and 4 days. And an alarming 7.2% are saying 0 days. They never felt rested any morning that they woke up. That's horrible, right? What about you guys in the room? How many days of the week would you say you feel rested when you wake up? 2? I heard 2. 1? 1. Okay. All right. Well, later on in the presentation, I have a 6-step plan for getting better sleep, so we'll talk about that later. But 16.4% of students said sleepiness during the day is either a big problem or a very big problem for them. And 22.7% said sleepiness during the day is more than a little problem. So I think the ranking was like a little problem, more than a little problem, big problem, very big problem. So you can see a large proportion of students are saying that it is some type of problem. So, sure.
Quick question. Have you all looked at differences between undergraduate and graduate students? And if so, did you notice any patterns?
You know, they do hash it out in the data, grad students versus undergrad students, but I just included all students because I think that this is a problem that's not, it's probably amplified in the graduate student community, but it's not unique to the graduate student community. But I could get back to you later with some of that data if you wanted it for programming in the future. But yeah, sure, I can get it to you later. Okay, so now that we've talked about wellness, do you think there's any connection between your wellness and your academic performance? Yeah? What do you think the connection is? How would your health and wellness affect your academics?
Directly proportional, like the better we are physically and mentally, the better would be our performance.
Sure, okay. Anyone?
I don't think that there's a relationship the other way where if you're performing badly, then it's going to affect your wellness.
Yeah, that's a good point too, that the relationship kind of goes both ways. So let's look at how University of Maryland students described it. So 11.9% of students reported that they received a lower exam grade due to sleep difficulties. 3.8 got a lower course grade. 0.5 had to take an incomplete or had to drop the course. And 1.2 experienced a significant disruption in their thesis, which is something that probably applies more to this group here, just due to problems sleeping. And there's a lot of other health problems that can come out of poor sleep or lack of sleep, you know, besides just disruption in your thesis. About 18.7 received a lower exam grade due to stress. 7.2% a lower course grade, 0.7% an incomplete or dropped class, and 2% significant disruption in their thesis. So we can see that I think the biggest issues here, and especially for graduate students, are stress and sleep, or stress/anxiety and sleep. So that's what I'm going to focus on now. So stress is actually, the way that I define it, is how we perceive certain events in our lives called stressors, which could be pressures, conflicts, or frustrations, or just any event that's happening in your life. An easier way to think of it is kind of it's the physical and emotional wear and tear on our bodies resulting from real or imagined problems. And I emphasize or imagined because sometimes we let ourselves work things up in our head and like make things a bigger deal than they really are, or imagine, you know, you're going to come into your work and your supervisor is going to yell at you, but then nothing happens. You know, we start to just let things spiral out of control in our head. So, but it can definitely cause stress. But there is such a thing as good stress. Eustress is good stress, and distress is bad stress. Somebody should count how many times I say the word stress in this presentation. So as you can see from this graph here, there's a certain amount of stress that we almost need in order to perform. Things like a deadline. If you had no deadline for an assignment, you might just never have the motivation to ever get it done. But you have a deadline and you know it's coming. That's where you get the good stress. You're like, okay, I got to work on this. I got to get started. But once the stress starts to become overwhelming and start hindering our performance or hurting our performance, that's when it becomes distress, and you can see that the performance severely decreases. So some of the symptoms of stress, aches and pains, sweating, inability to sleep or sleeping too much, inability to eat or eating too much, skin disorders like breaking out, mental or emotional blanks, and making accidents or mistakes. Has anyone experienced any of these symptoms in the last week? Today? Are there any symptoms up there that are, or any symptoms that you can think of that are missing up here? Anything else that you guys experience when you become really stressed? Yeah, kind of like emotional roller coaster. Definitely.
My blood pressure goes up.
Blood pressure, heart rate increases.
I feel like my heart beating throughout like my whole
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Hi. Exhaustion, yeah.
Not even with, doesn't have to do with sleep, just exhaustion.
Yeah, definitely. All right, good. Okay, so one of the biggest things with stress is that personality plays a big part into how, like I said before, it's all about how you perceive the events that are going on. So a type A person is actually more susceptible to stress than a type B person. So type A people tend to be success-oriented and driven, which is great, and probably two qualities that a lot of graduate students have. But they also tend to have little patience for people and rarely stop to enjoy the moment. Some of those traits, type A people tend to internalize those traits because they might not necessarily be socially acceptable. So when they internalize those experiences, it causes stress for them. It causes that physical wear and tear. So type A's, there's been a lot of studies that show that type A's experience greater stress levels and have a higher incidence of heart disease than type B people. But something to remember is that it's possible to be a successful type B person. Even though type B people are much more like relaxed and calm and kind of like, I'll get to that when I get to it. They have more patience. A lot of type A people perceive that as laziness, but type B people are able to be successful. You basically have to just work efficiently, live intelligently, but stop every now and then to smell the roses and enjoy your accomplishments. There's also something called hardiness, and if you possess some of these character traits, then you have what's called a hardy personality, and it means that you're more resistant to stress. So one of them is commitment, choosing to be an active participant in life, kind of like what I said, stopping to smell the roses every now and then. The next is control, so setting goals in line with your values and using effective time management principles. Attitude, recognizing the influence of mind over matter and choosing to think positive thoughts. Perspective, keeping life in perspective and not sweating the small stuff. Patience and tolerance are key in this category. And then finally, relationships, so developing strong relationships with all the people that you interact with and your community at large. So it might not be possible to change your personality, but it is possible to recognize some of the parts of your personality that might be causing you more stress or causing you to perceive events in a stressful way, and then work towards trying to relax or trying to be more type B or trying to get a handle on some of these traits that might make you more resistant to stress. Okay, so now we're going to actually, here's the portion where I'm going to actually give you some tools to help cope with stress. I'm going to need a volunteer. Who wants to come up and be my volunteer? You don't have to really do anything, you just have to sit here. Sure, come on up. So, and you can just sit right here. So as I take you through some of these strategies to reduce stress, I'm going to be using a method called biofeedback, which is basically just a treatment technique in which people are trained to improve their health by using signals from their own body. The specific method that I'm going to use is called heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is the beat-to-beat changes in your heart rate, and it really just shows how stress and other emotions are affecting your nervous system. So the graph on the left here shows a what's called low coherence, which means your heart rate's kind of all over the place and there's a lot of variability, which means you're stressed. On the right, and I like to call those ones on the left like jagged mountains. On the right, you see more rolling hills. That's somebody who is in high coherence. So they're slowing their heart rate down, there's less variability, and they're probably calm. So what I'm going to do, you're just going to put your index finger in there, and then you can just sit comfortably and relax. Okay? All right. So the first method that I'm going to take you through is deep breathing. This is one of the simplest and most effective ways to reduce stress anytime, anywhere, in the moment. But first, I'm going to pull up this. And what's your name? Daryl. We're going to look at, oh, this is loud. We're going to look at Daryl's heart rate, or heart rhythm, and see how stressed you are. So this is, I've done this before, and it is difficult in your situation to really relax because you're like in front of all these people, and it can be kind of nerve-wracking, but just try to relax as much as you can. Okay, so, and you can see up there, that's your heart rhythm. All right, we'll let it go for a couple beats and see where you are. All right, so it looks like Daryl has a little bit of the jagged spikes that we're talking about, and you're in very low coherence. So, I don't know.
Did you just stress him out?
I don't know what that was. I just turned the sound off, so hopefully it doesn't mean anything serious. Okay, so don't look at the screen. Just try to sit very comfortably and relax. So, like I said, Maryland students are stressed. Most students are operating exactly how Daryl is feeling right now, in the red, walking around every day like this. The goal of the next couple techniques that I'm going to take you through is to get you more into the medium coherence, and that's a calm and relaxed state. It's really difficult to even get into the high coherence, which is all the way on the right here. Most students will never be in that area unless they're like asleep and literally are, not even thinking about anything. So, okay. Like I said, I'm going to take us through deep breathing. So if everybody will just close your eyes for me, including you. Okay, so when we're stressed, we tend to breathe from our chest, short, shallow breaths. That causes a lot of the variability in the heart rate. So we're going to do some deep breathing. So if everybody just first close your eyes and notice your breathing. All right, now I want everybody to place one hand on your belly and just let everything hang out. Don't try to suck it in. Everybody's got their eyes closed, don't worry. Just be comfortable. Now I want you to breathe in deeply and pretend like there's a balloon inside your belly that you're trying to fill up with air. And now breathe out. Breathe in through your nose. You should feel your belly rise about an inch. And breathe out through your mouth and feel your belly fall. Keep repeating this. Notice your breathing. Notice your heart rate slowing down. And now count down from 3 more breaths. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Great job, everyone. All right, as you can see, it's starting to go off the screen, but look at Daryl. He went from jagged mountains to rolling hills, and he's even gotten into the blue section here and a little bit into the green. So you can see how incredibly effective this is. And that took, what, 15 seconds? Did you have a question?
Is there a difference if I blew out through my nose and through my mouth?
Scientifically, I don't know, but I'm going to say no, there's no difference. It's really just to help you concentrate on the breathing. So if it's easier for you to breathe in through your mouth and out through your nose, I'd say that would work just as well. Sure. Yes.
When I'm really stressed and I try that, I almost always end up in an anxiety panic attack, almost always.
With deep breathing? so then you know that that's not for you. Yeah. And it isn't for everyone. You don't want to take this exercise as you don't want to restrict your breathing at all. You just want to try to close your eyes, relax, and focus on the breathing so that you can start to lower your heart rate. Like you said, you feel your heart beating in like everywhere in your body, and you feel your blood pressure start to rise. This is definitely good to just calm that down. But if you experience anything like lightheadedness or you feel anxiety starting to come on, then you would probably want to stop. Sure.
So, for example, if I have a lot of work to do and like for example, my advisor pushed me to do something, I feel stressed. But even though I do the deep breathing, but it would maybe good for a while. After that, I have to do the work. I have to
Right.
face my advisor.
Right.
In that case, how can I,
Sure. So, like I said, deep breathing is good for in the moment. It's not going to necessarily have super long lasting effects, but it's really great for when you start to feel like you feel your blood pressure rising, you feel overwhelming anxiety coming on, or like for me, it's when I'm in traffic. That is horrible for me. So I just literally sit in my car like, it's for in the moment. It could be during an exam if you start to feel test anxiety. But like I said, it's immediate and effective, but it's not necessarily going to be too long lasting. So yeah, unfortunately, there's times where you do have to get your work done. But this can be helpful for before you're going to start on your work maybe, so that when you're ready to sit down and start studying or start working on something hard, you feel energized, you feel focused, you feel refreshed, and you're ready to start on that task. Or maybe you're nervous to talk to your advisor. So you take a minute to just do some deep breathing, calm down, so you're able to approach the situation in a calm manner. Okay. Thank you, Daryl. Do we want another volunteer? Anybody else want to try this? Because I have another exercise. Sure. Okay, so we're going to switch. Thank you so much. Yep. There you go. And just sit comfortably. Okay. The next exercise that I'm going to take us through is called guided imagery. I like to think of this as just a little mini vacation in your head. You don't have to do deep breathing along with guided imagery, but you certainly can if you choose to. And guided imagery can be done in a lot of different ways. You can either you can search it on YouTube, like I'm going to give an example of here. You can buy books that have just all different stories in them. You can read the story or have someone read it to you. You can record your own guided imagery. So I think the guy on here is going to talk a little bit about that, and then just listen to it, and it's your own voice. But the main purpose is to think about a place or a space where you feel completely relaxed. For me, that would be on a beach somewhere. But for some people, it's like their bedroom or their parents' basement, whatever it is, a campsite, something like that. Wherever you feel completely relaxed, you want to imagine that space and, like I said, go on a little mini vacation there. So the one that we're going to do, I believe, is a beach. Most people feel relaxed on a beach, maybe. So anyway, I'm going to wait just a minute because I want it to be quiet. Okay. So the guy in the video is going to talk a little bit about guided imagery, and then he's going to take you through a very short guided imagery. So just follow along with what he says. Let me make sure the sound is.
Guided imagery is a deep relaxation technique. It takes us on imaginary journeys that calm the mind and the body. There are lots of places where you can get guided imagery exercise, and you can make your own. All you need is a simple recording device, a handheld recorder, your laptop, your phone,
So you just want to
and
sit,
record
relax.
a journey that's going to make you feel calm. Here's an example of a guided imagery exercise that I would record for myself. Close your eyes. Inhale and exhale. You're on the edge of the lake, a clear, calm lake. There's a boat. Step into the boat. Lay down on the floor of the boat as it easily drifts off into the lake under its own power. Feel the warmth of the sun, the breeze, the ocean mist as you glide across this lake. In the distance, you see an island framed by palm trees. Your boat moves toward this island. And when you reach its shore, you step out onto the beach and lay down on the beach. Here you can stay and relax and feel the warmth of the sun, the breeze in your hair, and you can listen to the waves lapping against the shore. Just listen and relax.
Sorry, guys. Try to get back into the beach.
Stay here for as long as you like. And when you're ready to depart, count down from 10. 10, 9, take a deep breath in. 5, 4, and get ready to open your eyes to return to the room that you were in when you started this trip. 1, slowly open your eyes. Your guided imagery recording can be as long or as short as you like, because it only takes a few minutes of calming suggestions to produce some of the same benefits that you get from actually being at a beach, or on a lake, or on a mountaintop, or on the other side of the room. Go to this website for a free guided imagery relaxation exercise on demand.
So sorry about that strange noise in the middle of your mini vacation. And I stopped this because I think it was this program that was making the noise. But you can see, well, it kind of squished it, but you can see that in the very beginning, and what's your name?
Shelby.
Shelby. When we hooked Shelby up, it was these jagged spikes. And then if you spread this out, you would see that these are sort of those rolling hills. And she was able to get a little bit into this medium coherence level. But I think, with a guided imagery, by yourself in a quiet location, dim the lights, you'll have much more success with this strategy. So the point, like I said, the point of guided imagery is to really just clear your mind, get away for a minute, and like the man said in the video, you can get some of the same benefits from a 3-minute guided imagery that you would get from actually being in that relaxing space wherever it is that you find relaxing. And it doesn't have to be an actual space. You can make up a space. Like he said, you could be on the moon if you wanted to.
Is the guided imagery similar with the meditation?
Yes, it's a little bit similar. Meditation is more of just focus on the breath and clearing your mind. But guided imagery, you want to actually think about a place that you imagine yourself in. But we do have group meditation in the Center for Health and Wellbeing every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And sometimes the meditation instructor will incorporate a little bit of guided imagery into that meditation, but she'll let you pick the place that you want to go. She won't necessarily tell you you're on a beach or you're on a mountain or so. But yes, meditation is similar. So thank you. Okay. Okay. So the next method for controlling stress that I want to talk about is systematic rationalization. So basically what this method is, you have 4 boxes. You've got on the top left, controllable and important. On top right, controllable and unimportant. Bottom left, uncontrollable and important. And on the bottom right, uncontrollable and unimportant. So somebody tell me an example of something that's stressing you out. Thesis? Okay, so how would you categorize your thesis in terms of these 4 boxes? So controllable and important. Good. Can somebody think of something that's controllable but unimportant? Sure.
I'm driving to Philadelphia tomorrow, and I'm trying to decide whether I want to stay at a hotel or drive back the same night. It's not really that important.
Okay. So it's something that's like you're worrying about, it's kind of stressing you, but you realize you can control the situation and it's not really that important. Okay, what about something that's uncontrollable but important? What's that? Health? You think that's uncontrollable?
If you have like a health issue that you really can control.
Okay, so something like asthma, like something you're born with. Okay, important and uncontrollable. What about uncontrollable, unimportant? I would put in there traffic, because that's the thing that stresses me out, like I said before. But sometimes you can't control it, no matter how much you wish you could, or just drive on the shoulder or something like that. Anybody have any other examples? Uncontrollable, unimportant?
Maybe somebody else's behavior towards you.
Sure. Yeah. Somebody else is stressing you out? Okay. So those are all good examples. And what I would suggest is making a list of everything that's stressing you out. Then put it into one of these 4 boxes. Then what you're going to do, anything that you put in the unimportant boxes, throw it away. Don't think about it, because you said yourself it's not important. So there's no use worrying about it. Then you're left with controllable and important and uncontrollable and important. Which of those boxes do you think you can throw away? The uncontrollable. If you can't control it, you've got to just accept the situation and move on. And something like, we had a good example of something like asthma. Your asthma could, we've had unseasonably warm weather, there's lots of pollen, it could be aggravating your asthma, and you can't control that you were born with it. But I would argue that many, many situations, you can move from uncontrollable to controllable. There is a way that you could change the situation to control it. So maybe you visit your doctor and get new asthma medication, or maybe you make it a point to always put your inhaler in your backpack when you go anywhere, or in your purse or whatever it is. So there are ways to control situations like that. But if it's something that's purely uncontrollable, like I said, how can you change it? So why worry about it? Right? Okay. All right, good. This is a really great technique, like I said, if you've just got a lot of different things that you're worrying about, and it doesn't just have to be school related. It could be your family stressing you out, or like you have to drive to Philadelphia and whatever else. Maybe you experienced a death in your family that's causing you a lot of emotional stress. But something like that, while it is emotional, you can easily categorize it and figure out how to best deal with the situation. So something like that, it would be important, but it might be, it's uncontrollable. So yes, be sad and whatever you need to do, but then accept the situation and move on. Okay, so some other options for stress management, massage, and 2 lucky people in here, right, 2, will be getting gift certificates for massages in the health center. We do offer massages in the health center. It's $50 for a 50-minute appointment. which is a really good price if you've ever explored massage outside of here. Usually for an hour-long session, it's going to be like $100 or more. So it's very, very well priced here. We also have acupuncture. This isn't for everyone, but for those who do use acupuncture as a method of stress relief, we have it available in the University Health Center. We have group meditation and individual meditation. So we have group meditation every Tuesday at 6 o'clock in the Center for Health and Wellbeing, and then it's on Wednesday and Thursday at the Health Center. One is at lunchtime. I think it's Wednesday at 12, because I know that's hard for people to stay on campus at 6 o'clock, or a lot of classes are at night for grad students. So if you can go to the lunchtime one, great. And if you can't make it to any of the group meditation sessions, you can make individual appointments for meditation. Also, just using positive self-talk. Remember what I was talking about before about how personality plays a big part in how you perceive stressors. So if you make a commitment to trying to look at things in a positive way, or just trying to use positive self-talk with yourself, you'll see a huge difference. Instead of saying to yourself, oh my God, this paper is so hard, I'm never going to be able to get it done on time, you can say to yourself, I can do this. I have studied this. I'm prepared. I can do it. You know, it's such a simple thing that so many people are so hard on themselves. And if we just use positive self-talk, we'll feel so much better and so much more prepared to take on hard tasks like that, because you'll feel confident with yourself. And then finally, exercise. I have to plug exercise. My office is in the gym, so I have to plug exercise, but it's a great way to relieve stress. It's also going to help you sleep better. It's going to give you those endorphins to make you feel better, and it's a way to work off that nervous energy. So exercise, exercise. All right, now I'm going to talk about sleep. Okay, a lot of you said that between 1 and 4 days is when you feel rested when you wake up in the morning. Hopefully we'll try to help that. So this is the sleep cycle. I'm really not going to go too much into it. I just wanted to put it up there because when I talk about napping before, napping in a little bit, this will make more sense. But you can see that the first couple stages, the first like 30 minutes that you fall asleep are light sleep, and then you move into more deeper stages of sleep. And I'll touch back on this later. So some facts about sleep. Most people need 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night, period. There is a small percentage of people that need less than that, and there's a small percentage of people that need more than that. But it's all about knowing your body and knowing how you feel when you wake up in the morning, and what percentage of, or what length of time that you need to sleep. There's also tons of research that shows that lack of sleep is directly linked to poor health. Not only health, but it can also lead to poor performance. So your concentration, it's harder to concentrate. You don't feel as alert when you don't get enough sleep, and your performance will just go down. Sleep debt is cumulative, and the longer you go without sleep, the more your performance will decrease and get worse and worse. So sleep debt kind of works just like financial debt, but the way you repay it is a lot different. So if you withdraw $300 from your bank account and then the next day withdraw another $300, you're $600 in the hole, right? And that's kind of how sleep debt works. So if you need 7 hours of sleep, but you only get 4, you've got 3 hour sleep debt. If the same thing happens the next night, you've got 6 hour sleep debt, just like money. However, repaying it is different, because with money, you could just go put $600 into your account. But with sleep debt, you can't just sleep an extra 6 hours on top of your already 7 hours that you normally get. What happens is you need to add like an hour or whatever is realistic for you for the next couple nights. So you need to get your normal amount of sleep and then some, a little bit extra, for a couple nights after that to really get back on track and feel rested again when you wake up in the morning. So what a lot of college students do, and maybe grad students, I don't know. I think this is more towards the undergrads. They don't sleep at all Monday through Friday, and then they sleep until noon on Saturday and until noon on Sunday or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they think that they've repaid their sleep debt from the week. But in actuality, they would need to, it's better to maintain the same sleep schedule, so not sleep until noon, but just sleep till your normal time and then maybe an extra hour, and do that for a couple days to really get back on track. And then finally, partial versus complete sleep deprivation. I just want to make it clear the difference between those two. So partial sleep deprivation is exactly what I just described. So that would be getting some sleep at night, but not the full amount that you need. So let's say you only sleep 4 hours when you need 7. That's partial sleep deprivation. So a lot of people think, well, I slept last night, so I can't be sleep deprived. But if they didn't get 100% of the amount of sleep that they needed, they are sleep deprived. But complete sleep deprivation is if you just don't sleep at all. There's actually been studies that show that either partial or complete sleep deprivation has the same effects on driving as a 0.1 blood alcohol content. Is that what BAC stands for? Blood alcohol content. So driving while sleep deprived is basically the same as driving drunk. That's how dangerous it can be. So if you can imagine then how difficult it is to drive when you're sleep deprived, think of how difficult it is to do something that you really need to use your mental, like, not saying that you don't use your mental abilities driving, but something like working on your thesis or like running statistics or something like that. When you really need your concentration, it's like trying to do that drunk too. So it's really difficult if you don't get enough sleep. So now I'm going to talk about a 6-step plan to get better sleep. So the first one is recognizing the importance of sleep. This is the biggest thing, and if you don't do this, then the rest of those are not going to matter. It'd be like getting the go to jail card in Monopoly. Like you would just sit in jail the whole time, you know, if you didn't actually make the commitment to get better sleep. The second one is to adopt a healthy lifestyle. The third is maintain good sleep habits, and I'm going to describe all of these in the future slides. The fourth is to create the optimal sleep environment. Fifth, eliminate things that are preventing you from sleeping. And sixth, seeking help for persistent sleep problems. So I'm not even going to talk about the first one because, like I said, you're not even going to pass go if you don't do this. So we need to all make a commitment to getting better sleep, and then we'll move from there. So the second one I said was adopting healthy lifestyle. Exercising regularly is very important, but not right before you're going to go to bed. Because if you try to exercise at like 10 o'clock at night and go to bed at 10:30, you're going to be, like I said, you're going to have all those endorphins, you're going to be jazzed up, you're probably going to be sweaty, you know, uncomfortable. So you want to incorporate exercise into your part of your regular schedule whenever that works best for you. Exercise is going to help you fall asleep faster, stay in deep sleep, or get a higher percentage of deep sleep, and eliminate waking up throughout the night. So it's going to have immediate direct effects on how good your sleep is. The next is to maintain a healthy diet. Maintaining a healthy diet can prevent other health issues that could disrupt sleep, like overweight and obesity. And then finally, avoiding alcohol and nicotine. Nicotine is a stimulant, so that's going to stop you from going to sleep. It's also somebody who's addicted to nicotine, after a couple hours will start to go into withdrawal, feeling withdrawal symptoms. So they're more likely to wake up throughout the night, wake up more frequently when they start to experience those uncomfortable withdrawal symptoms. And alcohol, even though it's a depressant, it might make you fall asleep faster, but it fragments your sleep, so you're not getting as much deep sleep. And also, it's a diuretic, which is probably going to make you have to get up and go to the bathroom several times throughout the night. So, maintaining good sleep habits. Keep a regular sleep schedule. Like I said, those students who sleep until 1 o'clock or noon on Saturdays and Sundays, they're completely throwing off their sleep schedule. You want to try as best you can to go to bed and wake up around the same time every day of the week, even Saturday and Sunday. You want to develop a pre-sleep routine. So doing things that kind of trains your body like, okay, I'm doing this, this, and this, so I know I'm going to bed now. Like mine is always, I drink, this is so weird, but this is my pre-sleep routine. I drink a glass of chocolate soy milk, and then I brush my teeth and wash my face, and I get into bed and I read for about like 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'm out like a light. And that whole routine doesn't have to be that long. That only takes me about 20 minutes, half an hour. So you want to have a routine that's going to always make you know, okay, it's time for bed. And a lot of people will do this like with their children or their pets, like, you know, like so that they know. So make sure you do it for yourself too. This is a big, big, big one, the next one. Do not study in bed, in your bed. Your bed is for sleep and intimacy only. You do not want to study in your bed. If you study in your bed, you'll always associate your bed with whatever you're studying. So you'll always, when you get into bed, think of organic chemistry. And you don't want to do that because that's going to make you stressed when you're in your bed. And your bed should be a place of relaxation. Also, it's probably not going to help your studying if you study in bed because you'll probably fall asleep while you're studying. Okay, you want to definitely avoid frequent or long naps. Try to avoid napping at all costs, but if you are really exhausted during the day and you like feel like you can't even go on anymore, you can take a nap, but try to limit it to 30 minutes. So the reason for that, I'm going to go back to here, is because the first 3 stages of sleep, the light stages, last about 30 minutes. If you go more than 30 minutes, you'll start to go into the deep sleep phase, and if you wake up in the middle of a deep sleep phase, you'll feel groggy, cranky, and probably more tired than you felt before you took the nap. So limit it to 30 minutes, or a power nap as I like to call it, and you'll wake up feeling refreshed, like you got the rest you needed, and hopefully not too groggy. And then finally, this is a big problem for people who have trouble falling asleep, maybe because their mind is racing and they're stressed out, they're thinking about what they need to do the next day, and they have a lot of trouble falling asleep. So if you get in bed and within 30 minutes, if you have not fallen asleep yet, get out of bed. Because you don't, just like with studying, you don't want to associate stress with your bed. Your bed's for relaxation. So get out of bed and do something that's going to soothe you. You can read, you can brew some tea, you can just listen to music. So you want to do something soothing that's going to take your mind off of whatever you're doing. You don't want to do anything too incredibly mentally stimulating. Like you don't want to like play a video game or watch TV. But then once you start to feel tired again and sleepy, then get back into bed. All right, the next step is to create the optimal sleep environment. So you want to control bedroom noise. This can be hard for students that share a bedroom with someone, or like if you have a partner that snores or something like that. So what I would suggest is investing in earplugs or getting like a white noise machine, or there are tons of apps that you can download on smartphones that will play white noise or other sounds like a rainforest or waves or something like that. So make the noise, if there has to be noise, make it good noise like that. You want to block out the light. The room should be dim. So if you have big windows, try to get curtains or light blocking curtains. You want to keep it cool and well ventilated, and hide the clock. This is something, like I said, when people start to get really stressed when they can't fall asleep and they keep looking at the clock and, oh my God, now I'm missing an hour of sleep. Now it's been 2 hours that I've been laying here, and you just work yourself up. So hide the clock. And then, like I said, if it's been 30 minutes and you haven't fallen asleep yet, get out of bed. And then finally, this is seems so like duh, but make your bed comfortable. You want to make it a place that you want to go to sleep and feels like you're floating on a cloud or whatever it is. All right, the next step is to eliminate things that can prevent sleep. The first one is caffeine. I am the type of person that I can't live without caffeine, and I'll be the first to admit it. But if you absolutely have to have caffeine, limit it to only in the morning. You don't want to have caffeine after like 4 p.m. Because that's going to stop you from falling asleep at your normal time. Also alcohol and nicotine for the reasons that I explained earlier. You may want to limit fluids, just because, just like with alcohol, it might make you just have to get up and go to the bathroom, which wakes you up several times throughout the night. So try to limit fluids if you have a problem with that. After a certain, like after dinner time, limit your fluid intake. And then finally, eliminate any foods that are going to give you like heartburn, because that'll wake you up in the middle of the night. And then the very last one, seek help for persistent sleep problems. So these are problems that happen like every single night that you are trying to go to sleep. You know, it's not a persistent sleep problem if this happens once in a while. But things like you can't fall asleep, you can't stay awake during the day, you can't get up in the morning, you do strange things in your sleep, or you can't sleep because of your partner. So if these are persistent, really serious problems, talk to a physician about it. All right, next we're going to move on to time management and bring this workshop to a close. So effective time management can prevent or eliminate a lot of stress from your life. And then I was showing this comic earlier. It's kind of blurry, but it says, "I'd like to schedule a time management seminar for my calendar as soon as I can find time to buy a calendar." So time management is really, really key, especially for grad students who are trying to balance a lot of different aspects of your life. So here's some tips for time management. First things first, invest in a planner. Definitely. It's probably the best thing that you can do to help manage your time. And whether that's an actual paper planner, like you're the type of person that needs to write things down, or like I use my phone and I have my work calendar and my personal calendar and everything on my calendar on my phone. And I like that because I can put things on my phone and it automatically updates my computer. I don't really know how the whole cloud thing works, but it works, and that's how I keep myself managed. But so use whatever method is best for you. Next, making a list is very helpful because then you can see everything that you have to do and you can prioritize it. What do I need to do right now? And then from time to time, you can go through that list. You can check off the things that you've done, and that just feels really good. And then you can also reprioritize, or you can say, you can use the systematic rationalization technique that I showed you earlier, and you can say, okay, is this really something that I need to worry about, or is this something that I can just eliminate? Next, you always want to be asking yourself, what's the best use of my time right now? A lot of times, something I talk to undergraduate students about, and a lot of times grad students will experience this too, is that you might have a break in between your classes. So the undergrad students will usually have like an hour and a half break in between classes, but grad students, you might have like, you get off work at 5, but your class doesn't start till 7, so you have like a 2-hour break, something like that. Always be asking yourself, what can I do in that 2-hour period that's going to be productive? Or do I need that 2-hour period to relax? Or can I use it to exercise, or whatever it is? What's the best use of your time? Also, I know this is hard for a lot of you, but be willing to sacrifice perfection to get things done. It's really hard. It's something that I'm still working on every day of my life. But when it comes down to it, if you need to turn something in, you might have to sacrifice perfection. Get an A instead of just an A+. Instead of an A+. So also, this is another really hard thing for students, saying no to things. Limit yourself. Say no to things that aren't going to benefit you in some way. Just because you've already got so much going on, don't try to take on more if you realistically can't. And then whenever possible, delegate. So this is helpful in terms of, I know it's hard, you can't delegate your schoolwork, you can't delegate your thesis as much as you wish you could, but other things like chores around the house. You can ask your partner, do you mind taking out the trash tonight? I just don't even have time to do it, or whatever it is. Things like that. All right. Also, don't waste time on minor decisions. Like I said before, don't sweat the small stuff. Make a decision and move on. Also, arrange study time to keep distractions to a minimum. So if you live with a bunch of other people or your family or whatever it is, make sure they know your schedule and know this is like if you have to study at home, make sure they know this is my study time, so try not to distract me during this hour or these 2 hours. Be realistic about what you can accomplish during a given period. And mostly this is for your own emotional health. Because if you try to tell yourself, I'm going to write this 5-page paper or whatever in half an hour, and then you don't accomplish it, you start to feel guilty about not getting it done. So be really realistic. Know yourself, know how fast you work and how efficiently you work, and say, okay, maybe I'll get 2 pages of this paper done in this half an hour. And find out when you have the most energy or you're the most alert during the day, and use that time to study. So some people are really like 2 o'clock hits and they just want to go into a coma. So maybe don't study at 2 o'clock, you know. But if you're really alert at 2 o'clock, use that time for your study time. Also, a tip that I didn't write down here, but you always want to study your hardest subject first, or start working on the hardest thing first, because you're most alert and most focused at the start of your study session. So start with the hardest thing first, and then the easier things, when you're kind of starting to get mentally drained, they're easy, so you can still take care of it. And like I said, if 2 o'clock is your time that you feel like you're going into a coma, use that time for either a leisure activity or a nap, if you must nap, and no longer than 30 minutes. Okay, creating a schedule. This is something that's going to benefit you a lot. So this can be, and like I said, the number one thing is to invest in a planner. This can be something as simple as an Excel spreadsheet, which is what I've made here, and I'm going to give everyone one. So all I did was put the weekdays at the top and then times along the side. I can take one and pass it on. I'll keep one for myself. And you can take this with you to go, or you can work on it right now as I go through the steps of how to create a schedule. This is something that you can do once a semester, and then you can update it as need be. But pretty much if you know what your work schedule is and your class schedule is for the semester, you can make this only once a semester and then just put it up next to your computer or wherever it is that you can see it. So first, what you want to do is fill in all your required activities. So class time, work time, meetings, stuff like that. Things that happen every week. So for me, I would put like Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, work. Then after that, you're going to fill in all your other regular activities. So if it's GA hours, you want to factor in commuting time, or if you play on a sports team. So I've got Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, but then I've also got Tuesday at 6 o'clock, I play softball. So that's something that's going to happen every week. So I put that on my schedule so I know. Next, you want to schedule sleeping and eating. So this is something, one of the biggest complaints that I've heard from grad students is, I just don't have time to cook a healthy meal or whatever, or I end up studying until 2 a.m. and then I don't get good sleep. But if you put this on your schedule, that means you're making a commitment to it, and it means you're giving yourself the time to do it. So I would put 7:30 a.m., wake up, make breakfast. So if you put it on your schedule, it's going to be something, like I said, that you're giving yourself the time to do, and you're going to actually be able to do it. And eating breakfast is incredibly important, so everybody should make breakfast or eat breakfast on their schedule every day. And then you're going to put 11 p.m., go to sleep. Or even 10:30 p.m., start pre-sleep routine. And then 11 p.m., go to sleep. And then after you've got all that filled out, the rest is your free time. So that's where you can fill with studying, or with exercise, or with social activities. Sure.
At the beginning of the semester, I had a really great right?
Mm-hmm.
And I followed it really well for about a month. And then somewhere along the line, I started getting behind. And then it just all fell to pieces. Like,
Yeah.
it was really hard to get back. I don't think I've been back on track with that schedule since about the first month of the semester.
Yeah. So I think probably one of the reasons that it falls to pieces is maybe because you have unrealistic expectations of everything that you can get done in those times. So in that situation, I would just scratch it scrap it and start from scratch. I'd be like, okay, now I know I'm a month into the semester. I have a better idea of what my responsibilities are and my expectations, and more realistically, how long it's going to take me to accomplish things. So revise the schedule. Okay. But like I said, and really, really, really important, always factor in sleeping and eating into your schedule. Those are two things that you can't live without. So it should be part of your regular schedule. It's also really something that's really helpful for me. If you're on campus during the day and feel like there's not a lot of healthy food options during the day, I always make my lunch the night before. That's also part of my pre-sleep routine. I'll kind of just like make dinner and make my lunch for the next day at the same time and knock out two birds with one stone. And then that way I don't have to worry about doing it in the morning in case I'm running late or anything like that. And I can just grab it and go. So that's something that's really helpful. Okay, so finally I'm just going to go over quickly some campus resources that you can use. The Center for Health and Wellbeing, where I'm from. I briefly went over all of these services before, but I just want to reiterate that they're all free for students, faculty, and staff. The Health Center, like I said, is group meditation or individual meditation. Oh, and I have the times up here as well. We also have massage, acupuncture, and mental health, which can provide short-term individual or group psychotherapy. There's also the Counseling Center, which provides individual, group, and couples counseling or psychotherapy. Help for both personal, social issues and educational or vocational concerns. There's walk-in hours for students of color, LGBT students, students seeking to choose a major if you're really struggling, student veterans, and also student athletes is coming soon. There's also psychological personality and career interest testing, and they can refer you to off-campus resources for further counseling or psychotherapy. And then here's my contact information, but it's also on those cards that I handed out in the beginning. So you can take those with you. I encourage you to. And then finally, I just want to leave you with this quote. If it's important to you, you'll find a way, and if not, you'll find an excuse. So make the commitment to living a healthy lifestyle and being well and having your wellness wheel turn successfully. Because like this says, your health is something that should be important to you. And if it really is important, then you'll find ways to improve your health and your wellness. So, does anyone have any questions? Or, sure.
You mentioned some food that will cause us the heartburn before we sleep. Can you give us some example of the food?
Foods that cause heartburn? Yeah, it's different for everybody individually, but most of the time, like spicy foods are what's going to cause heartburn.
If you don't have heartburn, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
Just eat whatever you want.
yeah. You'll know if you have heartburn. It's not like one of those things where you're like, I'm not sure if I've ever had heartburn. Like, you will know. Because they're, yes. So, but it's usually something like really spicy foods or, I don't know, like heavy foods. Like I'm thinking like lasagna or something like that. Yeah. So. Anyway, well, I hope that you found this workshop helpful. If you have any further questions or really individualized questions, you can email me, call me, stop in my office, or make an appointment. I'm happy to help you with any issues that you have. I'm also really happy to work with people on time management issues. Like I have had clients before that I literally sit with them and do this. I make a schedule with them. We go through everything that they have to do and figure out ways to fit in other activities. So anything that I can help you with in this realm, I'm happy to. Thanks.